What's up, everybody? Welcome to Down and Dirty with Michael Julian. I'm your host, Michael Julian, and on this show, we're getting raw, real, and leaving no stone unturned. Each week, I sit down with some truly remarkable people who have overcome immense challenges and adversity in their lives. Whether it was childhood trauma, discrimination, mental health struggles, or any other obstacle thrown their way, my guests aren't just survivors, they're warriors who took their pain and turned it into power. They'll share their unfiltered stories and the life lessons that helped shape them into the forces they are today. So get comfortable because we're about to get down and dirty. You'll hear firsthand how our darkest moments can unexpectedly light the path towards our greatest growth and success. Let's dive in and prepare to feel inspired. Yeah, so Iron Claw, sad.
You watched it?
Sad movie. Watched it last night in bed.
Yeah.
Waiting to go to sleep, and then couldn't go to sleep because I was so damn.
It's rough.
It's rough.
Extremely rough. Yeah.
I mean, great movie.
Yeah.
Everyone should watch it, but damn.
Agree.
Intense.
Yeah.
Everybody did a really great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Beth Pope.
Hello.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
to see you. Good.
It's
happy to be here.
Great to see you. I don't get to see you as much as I used to, and that makes me sad, but I'm really glad to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. And like you said, many of my, I've only had a handful of episodes so far. Mm-hmm. And many of them were based on the security industry, executive protection, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, great.
You're still one of us. You're a sheepdog, and we'll get into your Navy and all that stuff and what a badass with firearms you are. But you're a little bit different, which I'm really excited about. Yeah. And actually, I think you're going to be the first guest because I know a little bit of your backstory. Mm-hmm. You're going to be the first guest where we really get into the things that I talk about in the intro of this podcast, and that is adversity and challenges and childhood trauma. And the person I know, of course, I know the outside and everybody's got the stuff they deal with, but the person I know seems very unaffected by the things in your life that you have overcome, which is inspiring to me, and I think a lot of people. So that's why I'm really excited to get into what's going on. So let's start with tell me a little bit about Beth. Give me the how old are you? 24?
Wait, switch that around.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Actually, my birthday was last week, so just turned
Happy
42.
birthday! Wait, does that make you a Gemini?
Yes.
Oh
yeah,
shit!
I am. Sorry.
I've so many Geminis in my life. So I know one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you get to know the other side.
I get to know the other one today.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Tell me about Beth. Start from the beginning. And this is, I'm going to have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So let's start from the beginning.
In a little nutshell of how I became to be.
Yeah.
Grew up in Illinois, small town Illinois, Peoria. So Midwestern girl through and through.
Nice.
I always think it's cool. People say that Illinois is the heart of America, and where I was in Peoria, they say it was the heart of Illinois. So technically from the heart of the heart, if you want to.
You might be
that way.
From the heart of the planet.
I might be for sure. But grew up with wonderful family. My transition into that was a little rough. I would say right off the bat, I was abandoned by my birth mother at 2 weeks old. She had some problems, some addictions, and thought she was doing the best thing, but it turned out probably not to be the best thing for me or I think I have 5 half sisters and brothers out there. They came, they found me, put me in a foster home, and was there for about 2 years. And they tried to reestablish her rights to be my mother. But she was often back in jail doing what she did. So the state put me up for adoption, and my adopted family decided to keep me. They actually had a meeting and just decided, yeah, she's ours. So, yeah.
Can we go back a little bit?
Yeah.
Can we start with the dark, sad side of things? Your mother was a prostitute and in Illinois, and kind of go shorter steps through that situation.
She, really want to go absolutely crazy. She was married to a gentleman named Leonard Spears for a while that was actually on, you can Google him, FBI's most wanted for homicide in Peoria. So she was on the run a lot. I might get some of these details wrong. Obviously, I'm just kind of getting used to being a part of this family. But that is true. And so my birth name is actually Maxine Renee Spears from him, although they don't believe that he's my birth father. And so, yeah, she had issues. She mentally, physically, who knows what her childhood was like, had 6 kids total. I was the youngest, came along a lot later on. And one day she went down to the bar to probably go find work or do whatever. And the neighbors had heard me screaming for hours on end. So they called the cops. And the cops came and basically broke down the door and found me at 2 weeks old, naked, screaming all by myself in some apartment somewhere. So yeah, always have a fan, for the police force just for that. They saved me. Literally say they saved
Definitely.
me. So
definitely. Yeah. What happened then? They obviously they took you into protective custody or whatever, to take care of you or a foster home or something. What happened to your mother? I assume that she was charged with abandonment or neglect or something.
Yeah, she was charged. And then, they gave her like 2 years. You have to go through these steps to try to earn custody back, if you will. And so she never was able to overcome her demons, I would say. And so ultimately, when the court hearing was about 2 years after that, she was found in a jail. So she came, my mom, so she was in her orange jumpsuit, and they asked her if she wanted to have me back. And she said yes, but they looked down that long list of names of my siblings and saw that they had all been taken away. So he said, no, you can't have her. That was pretty much it.
That was how long after?
2 years.
So it was the 2 years.
Yeah.
And so now you're 2 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
And okay, so let's jump back to your adoptive parents. So they had said, yeah, it's a pretty cute kid. Let's keep her around.
Yeah. Why not?
And this was how long after you were taken from your mother?
So it was probably, I would say about 2.5 years. So it was maybe 3-year process with all the paperwork and everything. Yeah. Yeah. And they had 2 biological children, and they were both in high school when I came along. So there's quite an age gap between, I think my sister and I have 18 years difference. My brother, who I'll talk about later, there's about 16 years difference. So, they're established. They have their way, dad's working for Caterpillar, mom's a proud at home mom in the middle of, farmland, 20 acres. And they're just like, yeah, let's throw a baby into the mix and see what happens. So yeah. Yeah. And she did that frequently. I mean, I had foster brothers and sisters throughout my childhood, and the admiration of that now, even as an adult, that I can be like, the fact for somebody to take in children that have been so neglected and just love them like you're their own, and take care of them and show them the respect that they need and the care, that says a lot about someone for sure. So
there's a lot of love in those people's hearts.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have enough.
Yeah.
Your birth mother being one of them, obviously. Yeah. So they adopted you. Mm-hmm. You now have a family, a brother and a sister. Mm-hmm. And curious, is your mother still living? Do you know?
She's not. No, okay. She's not. I think she died in 1990. My husband's big on the whole ancestry.com thing. So he tried to find as much information as he could. So we went back through the lines, and I did find 3 of my half sisters, and I actually old school, paid $30 to find an address for this lady, Lisa, that might've been my sister, hand wrote her a letter when I was probably, I think this was maybe 29 years old, and said, hey, my name is Elizabeth. I was born this date in this town, and I think I might be your sister. And sure enough, she called me 2 weeks later and was like, I've been looking for you my entire life. I've been watching Oprah. This is insane. We found you. And so they all had known about me, but I knew they existed, but I didn't know much about them because it was a closed adoption. So it was pretty surreal to actually connect with,
so
family.
Is she still in your life?
Yes. Yep. I've met all of them except for the half brother, David. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty insane. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Yeah. Did you, growing up in your younger, preteen, teenage years, did you have any kind of sense of wonder or avoid not knowing about your parents that made you want to find out?
Um, Not really. It was weird. I mean, I did feel a void. I felt very lost, but I never really wanted to know. I know some people are like really eager when they're adopted to be like, oh, I have to, what happened or who am I related to, medical history. But I had my family. And even though I, gave them a run through the mud and was absolutely crazy and rebellious half the time, they were there and they were my anchor. And they also introduced me to a strong faith, which I have, which also greatly helped me through that and was my survival pretty much through the whole thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I to be a kid and to know there's no way you can process that as a child, to know that you're abandoned, that your mom didn't want you. Like, you just think, why me? Why is this happening? Why do my friends all have normal families, but I'm the black sheep?
Yeah.
And so it's just, my parents didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to process it. So there was a lot of battling and screaming and just driving each other crazy. So I saw a lot of therapists, got a lot of treatment for it, and just tried to find myself. So it wasn't necessarily about finding who they were. It was more about just finding who I was. Yeah, I would say.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was curious about the longing, void part, because as a private investigator, since I was a freaking teenager, I have had the opportunity and honor to actually help several adoptive children and parents reunite. And it can be a strong, I mean, you felt it, but you were not overcome by it. And there are some people, unfortunately, who, and it's understandable that they would take it personally. Why would my mom or dad not want me? Right. I mean, that's the child, the abandoned, rejected child inside you, when clearly there's always another side of the story. And oftentimes, unfortunately, not often enough, a lot of the time, I think the parents actually do it for the sake of the child, because they know that they're going to be terrible parents, which apparently your real mom did not come to that realization until after it was too late, which is unfortunate. But I have seen this, all of a sudden the skies open up and the sun shines on these people when they are reunited and find where they come from, and they understand it better. And sometimes it's not a good story. Sometimes it's a similar situation as yours, but at least it seems like there's a piece of that puzzle that was missing that got put into place.
Yeah.
So that's great.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. So teenager, don't jump to marriage yet. So teenager, when did you leave Peoria?
14, we moved to France, actually. So that was a huge shift.
Yeah. And why was that? Because John Deere needed somebody out there?
Oh, how dare you say John Deere?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was it? Caterpillar. Oh, man.
Sorry, Dad.
That's like saying, Home Depot when I meant Lowe's.
It really
I'm sorry.
is.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
We're proud Caterpillar family.
Okay.
So he got transferred over there. Actually, I remember I was 14 and watching TV in Peoria, and he had just come back from a trip to Grenoble, France, and was like, "Would you like to move to France?" And I was like, "No, I'd like to visit, but I don't want to move there." And
how old are you?
14.
14. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you've got your whole young teenage life just getting
form. Into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, "Well, too bad we're moving in August." So 6 months later, we found ourselves in France. Yeah.
And wasn't working for Caterpillar, was he?
He was.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they moved him over there. They moved, actually, it was about, I'm going to say 8 families over there, which was kind of cool. We all had friends. So they all had kids about the same age. So it worked out. So there was like a cluster of American teenagers that all ended up from Peoria in this little town of Grenoble, France at the same time, navigating our way through high school for 4 years. It was nuts. I remember the first night we were there, Peoria is flat. There's nothing in Peoria whatsoever. Corn, cows, fishing, hunting, which we'll get into our love for the 2A here in a moment. So my first night, we're driving down the road and I'm just like, "Mom, what's with these stars? They're so low. Like they're almost touching the earth." And she was like, "Beth, those are houses." And I was like, "What? I'd never seen mountains like that before." I was in the middle of the Swiss Alps and it was just huge. And so there's just houses on both sides. And it was, it's surreal. So I spent most of my high school in France, which is totally different.
So clearly, French.
A little bit. I'd say I've definitely lost it. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's for sure. So
Yeah,
I need to find some.
I would imagine that's probably true.
Yeah.
that was quite a shift in culture and lifestyle, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. We had one of our first meals at high school. There were these things that looked like onion rings. We got really excited. They're giving us onion rings for lunch. We're like, this is amazing. Cut into it and it's squid. Like who would, huge fish with eyeballs still attached where you can just, you pull one side, the other side. It was like a science experiment. Lunch was like a science experiment.
That was in school?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Just cafeteria lunch.
Wow.
Yeah. The cool thing was being there in the Swiss Alps, you do a lot of skiing and snowboarding. So every Wednesday at 12:30, they shut down the school and everybody goes up to the mountains to go skiing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That a little bit reminds me of growing up in northern Colorado because we were close enough that they had a ski club and kids would ditch to go, but they didn't actually shut the school down so everyone could go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was different for sure.
Okay, so by the time you're 14, you've lived, enough stuff for most people 3 times your age. So that'll mature a person.
Yeah.
And broaden your horizons and show you the world and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. What happened after that?
Honestly, I was kind of a brat as a teenager. So I
really? As a teenager? Yeah, that's weird.
You can't tell.
So great that you grew out of that.
It was, still dealing with all the abandonment stuff and just trying to figure out who I was. And when we moved from France, my dad retired just to throw another kick in there. Senior year, we moved back to the States, to Oregon, to Medford, to a state I've never been to a town I've never been to a school system I've never been introduced to.
In Oregon?
So, in Oregon, yeah. So started my senior year fresh as someone that's just been in France for 4 years and has no idea what the American school system is like.
How'd you adapt to that? How was it? I mean, I think you're a very personable person, but when you're 17, 18 years old, and now you're thrown into a culture and society and area that you don't know anything about, that can be a little bit of a shock.
Yeah.
How well did you adjust?
I was depressed for a while.
Depressed?
Yeah, I really was. I'm sure my parents probably picked up on that. So I'm very artistic. So I think my mom recognized that. She would give me things to paint and draw and things to just kind of help me find some peace,
sure,
in the moment. But there was a neighbor girl up the road that went to the same school as me that was also a senior, and she kind of took me underneath her wing. Thank goodness, she was kind of my saving grace, and introduced me to her friends. And so I kind of wiggled my way into high school that way. Also, obviously fully relied on my faith. So found a church, found a youth group, and started actually a soul, like a devotional group at high school. So started to lead that. And yeah, I mean, it's just, everybody's faced with these difficult times. I know you've talked about some of yours, and it's just about overcoming. You can either hide into your shell and get depressed and become a victim. I could be a victim for the abandonment. I can be a victim for, being thrown in a foreign country, or all the things that we go over, or you can just say, you know what, how can I be better? How can I make this situation something, that will just right what I feel is wrong and take care of myself. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's an awfully healthy perspective. And it would be nice if congratulations. That's fantastic. That's incredibly strong, which I respect. I love people that, I don't like the victim thing. Mm-mm. And the work that I have done on myself, I learned, and I'll reference it, PSI, Personal Success Institute. I spent a lot of time going through that. And when I was introduced to the idea of victimization, of being a victim or falling into the victim mentality, and what it allows you to do to excuse things, help you cope with things, get the attention you need, whatever, it serves a purpose. But then there's so many bad things that come with being the victim, playing the victim, having a victim mentality, that ultimately it absolutely holds you back from loving yourself, from loving other people, from people loving you. And I always do this, and I can't help myself. My Alive program is a big part of my life, right? So I reference that a lot. Mm-hmm. So in my Alive program, sorry not to make this about me,
I love it.
This is the connection. I literally talk about you can never lose hope and never fall into the victim mentality, because it can cripple you.
Yes.
It's hard to make forward motion or take action when you feel like a victim. So the fact that you at such a young age made that decision, I mean, damn, I keep coming back to this idea of wanting to know more about your adopted parents, because they must have just really been and are both living.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must be amazing people.
Oh, they are.
I mean, they must have been loving and told you they were proud of you and made you feel validated. And that had to have just been a major source of strength for you.
They let me know that I was loved, for sure. I would say the support is something that probably came later, because, you know, it's even back to the school years. I was continuously pulled out of classes to go look at ink blobs to figure out what's wrong with me. Why am I having such a hard time in school? Why am I learning? Okay, well, you can't do this. So they were basically told I had fetal alcohol syndrome. And by the age of 20, I was going to either end up in jail or knocked up. That was the statistic. And they believed that. And I don't blame them for believing that, but they saw this troubled child, you know, and they were like, what's going to become of her? I have no idea. The expectations are so low, you know, again, from the whole victim mentality. It's just, you know, doctors try to say, you know, check off the box. Oh, this is it, statistic.
Sure.
You can't fall into statistics either. You know, you have to, and actually years later, you know, I actually graduated college and I was on the dean's list, and I was walking with my dad down the street. Love my dad, Air Force veteran. And he was like, I wish I could call that doctor and tell him how wrong he was about you, because now you've done all of this stuff. And they told us that never to expect this from you with everything you've been through.
Did you know that they had said that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
which also hurt as a kid to hear that from your parents and doctors. You know, everybody's saying you're special, you're not, you know, go be a dog walker, paint things, you know, what's going to become of her? Have no idea. They were worried about me, and I get that. But I just had to freaking crash my way through life. And I did bounce off walls until you succeed, kind of thing, you know.
Well, I think that's what survivors do. The ones that give up, they bounce off the walls and say, I can't bump it any more walls. But survivors say, I'm going to keep crashing into walls until something happens.
Even if you keep crashing, as long as you're moving.
As long as you're moving. That's a great way to put it. That's true. As long as you're moving, whether it's forward or backward, left or right, sitting still is not an option.
Yeah. Oh, you cannot. I'm curious about your teenagehood, though. Share a little bit about young Michael Julian.
Oh, boy. Well, okay. We can do that. Well, my father was military, Navy also, law enforcement, private investigator, and security. And he came from a very rigid household. Okay. So he was very rigid. Mm. So there was no, I'm proud of you or good job. Mm. There was, I heard from him when I did something wrong. And later in years when I was working for him, I said, hey, you know, why don't you ever tell me you're proud of me or tell me good job or anything like that? He says, if I don't say anything, you're doing a good job. If I have to say something, then there's a problem. Mm. So just take my silence as a pat on the back. And I thought, well, that sucks. Yeah. You know, but he was also the guy that said that fear and love go hand in hand. And I said, you know, maybe respect and love might be a better way to look at that. But hey, my dad made me who I am, and he definitely gave me the strength and gave me a lot of the tools and skills that I have to achieve what I have in the industry that I'm in. But yeah, that can be a little tough. It was the opposite of what you dealt with, I think. You know, it sounds like you got a lot of positive affirmation and positive reinforcement, and that even so. Now I'm surprised that they listened to the doctors and they thought, oh well, you know, you're whatever because of your, you know, the trauma you've dealt with, and they put a ceiling, because they sound like the kind of people that would be like, yeah, doctor, you know what, you're an idiot. We're gonna love her and watch her, you know, blossom into this amazing young woman, which of course you did. But I think the credit's going to have to go to you, ultimately, because you decided that you would not become a victim. Yeah. You would not lay down and let the world roll over you. And now you're the badass that you are today. Yeah. So let's talk about, so then high school's over. You decide to go into the military at that point?
No, actually, I just kind of partied for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I got married super young to a Marine at 20. 20 years old. That was about 2002. Right at shock and awe. So moved from Medford, got married in a nice Emerald Chapel in Las Vegas, despite everybody's wishes. Went down to Oceanside, where he was stationed in Camp Pendleton. And within 2 months, I think he had shifted off to Iraq at that point. And so here I was again in a town I didn't really know anybody. I had a job as a certified nurse's assistant, so I did that for a while. But ultimately, we were young, thought we were in love, but probably more so dumb, especially on my part. I probably should have gotten married that early. It was a mistake. And came to a recognition one night where I didn't try to take my life, but the thought was there. And I was just super depressed again, just found myself in this hole and was like, I have to get out of this whole situation. I have to leave this group. I have to leave this marriage. I have to just change. Something needs to change. Again, crash, move,
right.
Right. And so moved on and I had actually met this wonderful group of friends who are still my friends today, like 20 years, the heavy metal guys.
Oh, that you told me about. Yeah.
Yes.
What's the name of the band?
God Hammered.
God Hammered.
Yeah.
I gotta see
you
them.
Gotta check them
They're
out.
pretty heavy. I'm
They
good
are.
with that. I love it. I'm down with that.
Yeah. So met them and switched jobs, started bartending and, just loved my life and just, bartend all day, party all night, go to rock shows, have fun. And, the fact that 20 years later, we're all still the same group of friends, even after I had moved, to go to the Navy, says a lot. So they are part of my saving grace for sure. But again, just hit a point where I was 25 where I was like, this has to change. Something else is calling me.
Right.
There's something more to this life than just bartending and partying, even though it's, awesome. And, it's fun.
Something was missing.
Something was missing. Yeah. So I just went to a Navy recruiter, and being patriotic has always been a part of me. Again, dad, Air Force pilot, Vietnam veteran, was always instilled in us. And so just took the test, passed the ASVAB, didn't tell anybody I was doing it, called my dad afterwards and was like, Dad, guess what? Signed up for the Navy, 9 months and shipping off to boot camp. They were so excited. I think ultimately, despite everything that they'd been told or what had gone on, they just knew I needed structure. I needed discipline.
Yeah.
I needed someone to yell at me, unlike, anything else in the world. I needed my earth shaken, basically.
Yeah.
And so I went, and it was honestly the best time of my life. I loved boot camp. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Hi, everybody. As you know, I'm Michael Julian, and I am the creator and founder of the Alive Active Shooter Survival Training Method and Program. And Alive is today's sponsor for my podcast. So Alive is an acronym. It stands for Assess, Leave, Impede, Violence, and Expose. It is Run, Hide, Fight 2.0, the new and improved method. We have certified over 290 instructors in 6 countries, and we're certifying new ones every month. If you are interested in becoming a certified instructor of the Alive Active Shooter Survival Training Method, please reach out. We'll give you all the information you need, and we have a class at the end of every month. We would love to have you in our 2-day course and then have you out there teaching the world the best way to survive an active shooter. And as a sponsor of the show today, if you call and would like to either get the active shooter training or you want to become an instructor, mention my podcast, Down and Dirty with Michael Julian, and we'll give you a 10% discount on either way you want it. Thanks for staying tuned, and we'll see you soon.
What was it like? What was it like obviously there's tons and tons of women in the military now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I was younger, it was a very different situation. What was it like being a woman in the Navy?
Rough.
Really?
Yeah. It's hard. It's not easy. And what everybody says is true. You face sexual discrimination. You get attacked. It's not flawless. The system is built for men. It's, war is a men's battle, truthfully. And then you throw women into it. And even in boot camp, we were one of the first, I think, unisex divisions. So we had 2 berthings, 1 male, 1 female. Obviously, all the females stay together. But there's no special treatment. And I don't feel like there should always be special treatment. If If a woman's going off to battle, now in boot camp, they give you like yellow cards for, I don't know if they still do it, but they were, stress. Oh, I'm too stressed. Stop yelling at me. That's not going to happen anymore. The enemy's not going to offer you a footstool because you're 5'1" and you can't overcome a barricade.
That's a thing. They give you colored cards to reflect your mood and how hard someone could be on you in the military.
Yeah, in boot camp. It didn't happen during my division, but in divisions afterwards. Yeah. I had heard they were given stress cards.
I'm gonna go ahead and go on the record as disagreeing with that ideology. Okay. I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because, and of course I go back to my program.
Yeah.
We teach people how to prepare and cope with things so that they are able to cope with them when they happen. Mm-hmm. Showing my yellow card and saying I'm stressed out, don't yell at me. Like you said, the enemy is not going to take any. They're not going to have any sympathy for you. They're going to pick up on that weakness and they're going to exploit it. So yeah, I don't think that's a good idea because now you are a liability to your teammates as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, and they've also changed like the whole birthing situation. They used to go through for like battle station. You had to march, endlessly. I want to say like 5-6 miles through the night with a sea bag on. Now it's all in one building. So, you just go up and down stairs. Like love the military. It's like I said, it's not flawless. Things need to change. But in my opinion, we're definitely going in the wrong direction.
There is a pussification
happening.
There is
definitely a pussification happening. Yeah.
That's unfortunate because, the last people we want soft are the ones defending us with guns and bombs and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And when you train females, like what's your advice towards them? Because, females usually are kind of more afraid of weapons. And do you have anything specific that you tell them when they're getting into this kind of?
Okay. Great question. Wow. So yeah, never thought about it before, but instinctively, this is what I do. I will oftentimes present a situation to them in a way that will not make them cringe or shut their ears off or go like that because now they're not listening anymore. Mm-hmm. Now I've failed as an instructor because I've lost their attention or I've turned them off because I said something. So I might present it in a way that I think that will not turn their ears off, but I am not going to pull any punches. And when I do my Can You Take Another Human Life exercise in my live program, 9 times out of 10, it's a woman that raises her hand when I say, do you think you could take another human life? So when I go through that exercise and I say, okay, let's talk about your kids. And if someone was holding a gun to their head, and I go through this whole thing and I say, count of 3, I'm going to pull my trigger. And all you have to do is before I get to 3, pull your trigger because you've got your handgun aimed at me. They always pull the trigger. So ultimately, sometimes I take them through a journey and I start off soft, but at the end of the day, people are going to have to be hard enough to do the job or to handle the situation or to cope with it, to not become paralyzed, to not become a victim and to not lose hope. If they're not prepared when the time comes, then I've failed and they failed and they may die.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go for the yellow card. I'm going to say, look, actually, I need to work on you harder because you're probably the softest one in the group. And now I'm going to have to toughen you up. But so the short answer to your question is I don't pull any punches when I get to the point, but getting them there so I don't turn them off and make them stop listening or absorbing or digesting what I'm saying, I'm a little bit more tactical. So I don't know how that would work in the military. I don't know if you could do that in the military. Bottom line is, if you've got to drag a body, I don't think you should drag a body that's half the same weight, because that body's going to be twice as much in the battlefield.
Yeah, for sure. No extra things needed, no easy way outs for females in the military alone or anybody for that matter. That's just how I personally feel. So I actually worked on the flight deck. I went to school to be a fuelie, so refueled all the jets and the helos on the flight deck. And showing up to the flight deck, it was me and one other female, and the chief at the time was like, oh yeah, welcome to the flight deck. Here you're going to be sitting behind this desk as a secretary, working for us, pretty much be the flight deck secretary. And I looked at him and I was like, all due respect, chief, I didn't sign up to do the flight deck, to be a part of this. just to sit behind a desk all day. I want to be up there with the guys and doing my stuff. And he was like, the last girl we had up there did nothing but cry and couldn't keep up with the guys. And so what makes you think that you're any different? And I said, you don't know who I am. And so he said, all right, trial run. We'll give you a couple weeks. We'll see if you can handle it. We were just actually getting shipped off to a 6-month deployment to North Korea. This was mid 2000s. And yeah, it was just another thing that you have to face as, you know, especially as a female in the military. I mean, people are going to look at you differently. People are going to treat you differently. And the whole thing is, again, just overcoming that, not letting it break you. Obviously, there's some situations that happen that are so bad that you need to take action. But ultimately, you know, if a guy, you know, looks at you weird, or, you know, one of your teammates slaps you on the ass, you know, don't go crazy. Just be one of the guys. That's what you're there to do. And the war, flight deck, whatever, is not going to be like, oh, you're a woman, you need to be treated differently. I mean, the fire clothes that I wore did not fit. I had to shuffle through the P-ways when you were doing like damage and control drills, because I don't fit. My little 5.5 foot does not fit in a universal size 11 unisex boot, you know? But there's a fire. There's like a fake fire. But, you know, you have to be able to just be like, fuck it. Excuse my French. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm starting to see a pretty obvious theme here, which is, did you just tell me I can't? Watch this.
Yeah.
I get that. I can relate to that. I love that. I think that's great. People like you are the ones that just refuse to be told no, refuse to quit, and oftentimes go on to write best-selling business books about overcoming and kicking ass. So that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, you and I have spent some time, and for background. So you worked for a marketing company that worked for me.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to know you. And we did fun things like go out on the golf course for, you know, different functions and charities, and we've drank together. And I knew we were similar and cut from the same cloth, and now I'm starting to find out why, which I love.
Same.
Okay, so how long were you in the Navy?
I did 4 years, and also overcame a lot during that 4 years. So my first deployment, while I was in boot camp, my brother started to get sick, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. So halfway through my first deployment,
you're what, 24, 25 now?
I was 26 at the time. Yeah, 26. Probably, yeah, just turned 26. And was actually thinking I was going to get an award. So part of being in the military, being enlisted, you have to do this thing called cranking, where you work in the galley for a certain amount of months. Everybody has to do it. I was special. I actually got chosen to do wardroom. So I got to feed the officers. So I got like extra ice cream and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. But they do a sailor award. I think it's like quarterly for.
Okay, quick question. Sorry, this came to mind. I got to ask. Were you chosen for this because you think, because now I'm thinking about the whole, you know, male dominated military stuff. Like, do you think because you were a cute young gal, they had you serving the officers, or it just happened to work out that way?
I have no idea. It could be either or both.
Either way, it was a good,
either way,
it was a good thing.
Yeah. So I was called up to the captain's mess one day to meet with the captain, and I did. I thought I was going to get an award for being a great ice cream server for 6 months. Yeah. Because I did grow close to the officers. They're great people. But it turns out that my brother had less than 48 hours to live. So
that's a difficult.
Yeah. It was rough.
That's really rough. What was his ailment?
He had lymphoma. Yeah. Stage 4. I might get it wrong. I want to say it was T-cell Hodgkin's lymphoma. One of the types that's basically there's no recovering from it.
So he was only about 40 at that time.
He was 38. He had 3 young kids, and he had worked his whole life, and most of it in like seeding companies and all that stuff. So they think that some of the pesticides caused it. But yeah, it was I just remember going numb basically from that moment on. I was over in Japan. The pastor came and let me call home. Got shot off the carrier, which was a whole different experience.
They put you in a fighter jet
it was a COD. Okay.
It
was, so kind of what they deliver our mail in, but that's That's how you get on and off. And went to Japan, ended up in Sasebo, couldn't call my family because the phone cord wasn't working, but became good friends with this gentleman that was actually also flying home because his dad was dying. Most people on that plane are going home because it's not a good situation, you know? And so went back to Seattle. So the Navy will only pay for you to go back in family emergency to your duty station, which at that time was Everett, Washington, which is kind of fortunate because my sister lived in Linwood, which is 30 minutes south. So ended up in Seattle. My family was all out in Illinois for Sean. Called as soon as I could, and they were like, "Where are you?" You know, and I'm like, "I just landed. Like, what's going on?"
In Washington.
In Washington, and
they were in Illinois.
They were in Illinois, yeah. And they were like, "He's gone. It's too late. We've missed him." And I just remember sobbing on the plane. Like I'm sure it was just, I couldn't tell you what airline I was on. I couldn't tell you the color of the seats. I'm sure you've been through other things. You just kind of black out and you're just
numb.
There's just a hole.
Yeah.
So went home, had the service, was surrounded by tons of family and friends, but that was one of the hardest hits.
I can imagine.
Yeah, sure.
That was very tough.
Especially seeing his kids.
Yeah.
That kills you.
Yeah. I mean, your pain is one thing, and then you see the pain that his children were going to go through. Are you ready for one of these?
Still. Leilani, be proud of you.
Yes. Well, that is another blow. Thank you for sharing that with me. That is terrible. What happened after that?
Honestly, that's kind of how I got back into fitness. Like that was my saving grace.
Because you'd been partying, then you went into the Navy. Now you had to have been doing PT in the Navy and stuff like that. Yeah,
some PT. Yeah.
But you were doing it because you had to, not because you were interested in it.
Not because I was interested in it. So it changed. It totally focused from having to do like mandatory PRTs and run. I went, when I got back, my ship was still on deployment, and they were like, well, we're only going to be out for a couple more months, so just stay back in Everett and, do some stuff around there. And so I just ended up in the gym like every day. And I need to get back into that. But
it was therapy at this point.
It was therapy. And I also stopped drinking because every time I drank, I just would break.
Yeah.
And so I think, you need to realize when you face these trials, what's helping and what's not. And it can be so hard to find that boundary and be like, I need to stop this because this is not good for me right now. And you just have to be like, that's it. And I remember my girlfriend at the time being like, come out, we're going to go out. And I was like, no, I have to go to the gym. She's like, it's Saturday at 4. I'm like, I have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
This is it for me.
Yeah.
And so, so did that. And, that's an ongoing process. Loss is something that you just don't get over. It's one of those things that kind of gets better with time, but not really. You just, his kids are older now, half of them are married, have kids of their own. So it's just something that we deal with, and we always share memories of him. He was a great guy, and that's just kind of how you keep tackling it. Yeah.
What is your ego defense mechanism? What is your go-to when you're dealing with pain or hurt or whatever? Mine, I can be honest with you, is avoidance. I don't deal well with grief. Both my parents have passed. I've lost countless pets that I adored like children. So my thing is, if something reminds me of that and I start to think about it and my heart starts to hurt, I will find a shiny object or a butterfly to refocus on. What is your go-to? So
I cope by actually different than you. So I like to be surrounded actually by things that remind me of them. So like, my brother, I've got pictures of my brother all throughout the house, pictures of my dog, the cat, we've talked about that. It's just my way of I give them kisses. They're still in my life. I just, even though it kills me, it's, so a little different. That and faith, God, I cope greatly because of God and always being there, through everything. I can see God in my life since day one, since he knew the whole situation of, the abandonment and where I was and everything I've been through. He's there, and I can get angry at him and I can scream at him and do whatever I want. He still loves me and cries with me and laughs with me. And I keep him close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Okay, so I had a kinship respect for you before, but now I realize that you're tougher than I am because your ability to literally immerse yourself in the things that could be triggers to make you feel shitty, which is the thing that I avoid. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at, I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want my heart to hurt. So I'll just find something else to think about. You literally embrace it and use it as strength.
Yeah, I try to. Yeah,
Wow.
but everybody handles it differently, you know? And it's there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what you feel comfortable with and what, you know, what makes you be able to continue navigating life without them as much as you can. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like, you know, one way of handling it is better than the other. Like it's just what's great with you.
I'm going to have to, based on my study of psychology throughout my life, because of my fascination with it, I'm going to disagree with you and say that your way of handling it is healthier than any other way I can even think of. Certainly mine, because I never get rid of mine. I don't process it. I just keep it down in here.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't come to the surface. I don't have to deal with it. So it's always there and it's always pushing out and it's always affecting other things. You have literally processed it, have resolution, and now use it as a sense of strength to motivate you to continue to move on even faster and higher and better.
Yeah. Them right there by our side, you know?
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, Beth, that, I mean, you know, I respect you, but that is amazing. And the fact that you've been through what you have and that is your coping mechanism, I can't think of anything healthier than doing it that way. And it's inspiring to me. I need to start putting some thought into that. Like, I don't even like having pictures of my parents that are going to remind me that they're gone, which is terrible. It sucks, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, it feels like a mess as you're going through it. Obviously, it's, you know, it's not easy by any means, no matter what, but it's, you know, it's just, I'd rather look at his face and see his stories. Every time we're together as a family, we talk about all the crazy things he used to do. He had a possum once with his car on his way to high school and, you know, was big into hunting and skinning stuff. So he put it in the deep freeze and thought it was dead and it wasn't. And so mom went out hours later and opened up the thing and this possum like, you know,
freezing its ass off.
Face. Yeah. There's just, you know, just ways to keep them. Oh, that's just what makes me comfortable.
Okay. Now I can kind of relate to that. When I'm in, you know, my parents, they'd be in their 80s now, I think. But when I get together with my sister or one of my father's friends, and I'm not even in touch with them anymore, and we start to talk about him in a familiar, loving way, that is nourishing. That is very comforting to me. So that I get, and that's a great thing that you have, and you can do that because you're keeping them alive in a positive way. Even though, you know, you guys probably, he was 14 years older than you, so you probably didn't fight that much, but
No, but he taught me how to fish. He taught me how to hunt, shooting, all of the things that I now do. You know, him and my dad are the reason why I do what I do.
Wow. That's a strong connection. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about that. You are part dude. Like, you love dude stuff.
I do. I always have.
I think part of the reason I like you so much, because we have a lot in common in that respect.
Yeah.
Tell me about your dude stuff. Like, you love guns. I saw the picture of you at the tactical games with an AR or whatever it was. Let's get into that a little bit, because I'm sure that my audience, which is a large part of my audience, are, you know, security guys and military and law enforcement and stuff like that. You're like the perfect chick. So tell us about that stuff.
Well, like I said, just the growing up in the country with dad and Sean, like, I was always around hunting, fishing, archery. My brother actually used to hand make recurves and arrows, his own arrows. So he was really big into that. So even just doing that makes me feel like I'm connected to him. But it's always been a part of my life. At Christmas time with family, we always go to the gun range together. That's like our family outing, is just to go shooting at the range.
That's cool.
My nieces join me. It's a family. My mom and my sister, not so much. They're more of the, you know, in the kitchen doing their thing. And I've always been, okay, well, I'm going to go out with dad and go shoot. So, But yeah, so I found the tactical games probably a couple of years ago now, and I just saw it, and it's basically like a CrossFit shooting competition, and it's shooting with a high heart rate is basically what you're doing. So there's various elements throughout the day, various events. And I went to that picture that you saw. I went to Tactical Games Athlete Camp, which gives you a little taste of what it's like. And they help you, zone in your sights and get everything. I'm used to just shooting downrange, static at a gun range. This is tactical. It was totally different. I was completely like a fish out of water. John
Wick type stuff?
Yeah, like just running up, clearing mag, doing everything. It's totally different than anything I'm ever used to. So it's exciting. So my first competition's in September. And one of the reasons I got into this, so I've, been married for 14 years.
We didn't cover that part.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got married for a short time when you were young. Mm-hmm. You got divorced. You got remarried.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're up to speed.
Yeah. And he's Navy. He's active duty. So he does his stuff, but he, been married for 14 years, traveled all around, East Coast, mostly for our duty stations now back here on the happy West Coast. But, I, have fertility issues, so can't have kids. So that was something that we had to go through. And just as a woman, and Tulsi Gabbard actually came forward not too long ago and admitted this herself. She's faced some fertility issues, and just as a woman to to feel like you have this part of life that you're supposed to be, but you can't be. Yep. There's a sense of shame that follows that, unfortunately, even if no matter what you try. And so all my friends are having kids, and all this is going on, and I'm like, what's my purpose? Like, if I can't have kids, what am I doing here? There's more to life than that. But I've got 9 nieces and nephews, now 5 great nieces and nephews. Wow. Like, I've got a huge family that loves me, but just because I can't have a child myself doesn't mean that, that's the end of it. So again, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? What's the next step? What's the purpose? And I was like, tactical games. Let's do this. Let's.
So, God, you're something else. So you're wow, first of all, and I get it. I can't get it because I'm a dude, but I get it. I mean, I understand. You're kind of like, well, we're born, and you're a person of faith, so obviously we're born and we're supposed to procreate. Blah 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 blah. I can't do that. And your answer to that is, okay, well, that challenge is not for me. What other challenge can I take on and kick ass?
Yeah.
And so you decided to do CrossFit, had a baby with the military,
pretty much,
and then a stepdaughter or stepdad that was law enforcement or what. I mean, you just decided to kill yourself physically, but obviously mentally, you got to have a strong will and a strong mind to do that.
You do, but sometimes you have to discover that strong will and that strong mind. So even at like the tactical athlete camp that I was at, I totally broke one night because I was done. Like, I was tired. You face these things and you're like, you get tired of facing it all the time, and I think that that's normal.
It wears
like,
you down.
Here we go. It does.
It does.
Life can wear you down. And so I think it's okay to break. And I think it's okay to know that you're not stuck, though, like we talked about. Like, you can change. It's okay to cry, to get upset again, get angry at God, be like, why are you doing this to me? And just trust the process and just don't stop. You can't just stop and grovel and be like, well, if I can't be a mom, so my life is worthless. There's more to life than that. And so the tactical games is giving me something to work for. It's challenging me mentally. It's challenging me physically. I'm not going in expecting to win. I've met some amazing people. And after doing athlete camp, I mean, it's brutal what they do to your body, what you do to your body. There was actually a guy, we went down to the Staccato Ranch. Have you ever been there?
Mm-mm.
It's fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful place down in Texas. And so it's open range. So there's people also just kind of, shooting, having their little day of fire drills personally. And we're all packing up the last day, and this guy next to me in the car, nice, clean dress. So I knew he wasn't part of athlete camp. And he was like, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. He's like, I've watched you guys for the last, why are you doing this? Like, why are you guys doing this to yourself? And I jokingly was like, I've asked myself that like 10 times this weekend. Like, it's rough. It's harder than boot camp, honestly. And I was like, I have no idea. And he's like, no, really? Like, and you're paying to do this to yourself. Why? I think you guys need help. And I was like, I think this is our help. This is our therapy
100%.
for 1,000, it's just, This is how we're dealing with things that we faced in life. A lot of the people that do it are first responders, cops, SWAT team, some badass girls that, just do amazing things for their job. And I think everybody ultimately, either whether it be the love for firearms and just self-defense, has something that they've probably faced where they're like, you know what, I'm just going to push myself and I'm going to keep going. And if I break, I break. And if not, then you just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me, the different ways that people deal with, cope with, believe. And you are such a strong example of the survival mentality that you literally went, okay, I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm going to find something else to prove or exhibit or exercise my strength. Where do you think you learned that from? Is that just a thing that comes with the confidence of having parents that love you? Or did somebody actually, was there a mentor, a role model that said, hey, when life, kicks your feet out from under you, you stand up, brush yourself off, and then find something, kick it back?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's a mixture of the love and the support that I continuously have from my friends and my family, faith, but also just looking back to when I was like 5 and being a rebellious kid and trying to deal with this whole, going back to the abandonment thing is I was like, this is not going to defeat me. Like, this is not going to be who I am. Like, I've always defended myself and I've always fought for myself and given myself the benefit of the doubt when other people haven't. And side note, people probably don't know, but that's why I have my spirit animal is a great white shark.
Oh,
because growing up, I was like, people don't understand me. I'm mysterious. They just don't get me. I'm just different. And it's hard for people to comprehend what I've been through. And so I just attach to them because I feel like they're deeply misunderstood, powerful creatures. And I was like, that is who I am.
Wow, that's very cool. Yeah. That also reminds me, that they say there's 4 different personality types, and I think it's the upper left quadrant that's some ideologies or whatever the way they describe it. Some say it's the color would be red for the driver, or the name would be driver or controller. Well, when they use fish, the shark is the type A personality. So that makes perfect sense with you.
Yeah.
And I am definitely a red shark controller director, type A, pushy MFer that doesn't know when to shut up myself. So not saying that you don't know when to shut up, but I get that. I can totally relate to that. Yeah. So that's very, very appropriate.
Well, back to you, like no tidbit of your story, obviously, and childhood and everything, but you've grown these amazing multiple companies that I used to work with you pretty closely on.
Thank you.
And I know you've started and, probably overseen and overcome so much just in the business world, personally trying to balance that life, kids, family, like you've hit walls too. So what is your mechanism to keep going? Because you obviously have not stopped. You're still here. You're still kicking ass. You're doing new avenues of things. You're just, same.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Very, very closely aligned with you. If somebody tells me I can't do it, I say, hold my beer, motherfucker, and watch me. And I found that out. I think that was from my father. Well, actually, it's from both my parents, because my mother, even though her life was not good, not easy, had a horribly traumatic childhood and went through a lot, when she put her mind to something, there was nothing. And she was in victim mentality a lot of the time. But when she put her mind to something, nothing could stop her. And my father was very type A, very strong personality. And when I was a senior in high school, just lots of family drama and stuff. I was still living in Colorado with my mom, and my dad was back in California after they divorced. And she threw a fit in a fit, just a tantrum that she had, and basically kicked me out of the house. So I went and lived in a little ranch hand house on my girlfriend's ranch and went to high school sometimes. I was over 18, so I didn't have to show up because I could write my own notes as an adult. So I went to, but the point is this, everybody thought I was going to drop out of high school or I was going to flunk out of high school. And when they basically let me know that, I said, really? Watch this. So I went ahead and got straight A's for the first time in my life.
Yes.
Now, 2 of the classes were weightlifting, so that doesn't necessarily count, but I was good at it. But yeah, when somebody says you can't do something, don't even think for a second you're going to shut the door in my face.
Amen to that.
And that reminds me of something I'm sure you've seen. Have you seen the Dana White clip on social media when he goes something like, bet against me, go ahead. Watch me.
See what happens.
I can very, very closely relate to that because when somebody says you can't do something, and that's an obstinance that I have, but it works in my favor sometimes not.
Yeah.
But that's how I did it. And clearly that's how you do it. I mean, you just tell you can't.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And then something inside you just like explodes and you're like, oh, watch this.
That's it.
So I get that.
I can't help but say you said hold my beer, and we have this beautiful bottle of Blends sitting right here.
You want a little Blends?
And I feel like we need to partake.
I'm going to take the one with the water spots. Yeah, Blends is good stuff. So are you a whiskey girl?
Actually, obviously? I am. Yeah. Not say just getting into it. I like some Angel's Envy.
Good stuff.
And usually I'm a Naughty Barrel peach girl myself. I like the sweet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But love a good old fashioned and
right on.
Else there is.
Well,
but yeah, so cheers.
Here's to you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being on. We're not done yet, but let's definitely toast.
Yeah.
Have you had?
That's good.
Is it Uncle Nearly?
No.
It's Uncle Nearly or something Nearly. It's also very good. I'm more of a single malt Scotch guy myself.
Oh, that's my husband.
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend drinks bourbon and whiskey and probably knows more about it than most men on the planet. So I've gotten quite an education. So, okay. So, all right. So Super Survivor. Now can you give us an idea? What is the tactical games like that? Is it like a day, 2 days, 5 days? What do they do?
It's 2 days. The event that I'm doing is 2 days.
San Diego?
No, actually Utah, just outside of Salt Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's Fairbanks. So it's in September. We've got a VRBO. And they do multiple locations throughout the year. So it's nationwide, different events. They actually just had a really cool sniper event that I would love to participate in maybe next year. So sniper event. Yeah.
What's your favorite rifle, handgun, whatever?
I built one recently. I built my AR with some help of my friends, and I named her Blanche from Golden Girls.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, just I don't know if everybody does that, but I like to name my guns. So she's Blanche is wild. So Blanche is she's wild. She's going to take me through. It's going to be amazing. But it's 2 days. There's 4 events each day, and it's anything from doing like a 4-mile ruck run to one of the events we had to do at athlete camp was do a assault bike. Have you ever done an assault bike?
No. What is it?
It's like a fan. It's like a fan push hard. Just kind of it sucks. Is what it does.
So it's a stationary,
it's like an eco bike. Yeah, stationary bike.
And the front is a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I have been on those before.
They're not as smooth as a regular bike. It's a brutal bike.
Yeah.
And so we had to do like 8 to 10 calories on that. And the whole time you're wearing a weighted vest. So you have to wear a 12-pound weighted vest the entire time. You also have to have 5 mags of each pistol, so 9mm, and then the 5.53. And so we did 8 to 10 calories of that. Then we had to do burpee jump overs, this yoke bar, which as a shorty came up to here on me. So I had to literally like heave myself over this bar, trying to do it 10 times while doing a burpee on each side, and then run up and shoot 9 pistol, 9 rifle on target, and then go back and do it all again another 8 times.
Wow.
Yeah. It's rough. It's not.
It's badass.
I didn't finish that one. It was crazy.
That's very, very cool.
But yeah, so it's different. And I invite people to check it out. The community is fantastic. And if you're looking for a challenge, I think you should probably try to do one. They have groups for, 40, 50 plus.
Do you have any idea how old I am?
That's what I'm saying. They've got it. It's okay.
They don't have a seniors division.
I'll make one for you.
Oh, God, I can't imagine.
It'd be great.
I've done a couple Spartans and I thought I was going to die.
Spartans are hard too. Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the tactical games, and we'll see how it goes. But it's just a challenge, another challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anything like, so now, so you're married, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
you're doing the tactical games, you work for a marketing company. Are you an account manager? Is that what you're doing?
No, actually, now I'm all internal. So as you know, I was an account manager with you, but I switched to a different agency, and now I'm an operations specialist, agency operations specialist. So it's a very large agency. There's over 100 people there.
Whoa.
And yeah, and it's basically I help resource. So they have so many steps to each process that, you know, I help if you would know, account manager, basically make sure that the team has enough time and resources to do the task at hand efficiently and effectively. And so I'm kind of the director, internal director.
Like a project manager.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's fun. So only been there for a couple of weeks. Like it, onboarding was insane. You know, job to me is it's fun. It's a career. It pays the bills for the hobby ultimately.
Sure.
Though, I mean, you know,
And the hobby is the tactical
the
games?
tactical games. Yeah.
What do you do outside of that?
Hang out with my friends. That's it. You know, just party, go brunch, go up to Big Bear fishing. We go to the desert. We go shoot in the desert out in BLM land a lot. And, you know, we all work really, really hard. So we play even harder. And I think that's ultimately kind of
Necessary for
You have
balance.
to.
You have to have the balance. Yeah. And you definitely have the self-discipline to keep that in balance. And you've already done the party thing for 4 or 5 years. So you know what that's like.
Yeah.
Now you've just incorporated a healthy amount of it to give you balance, because I know you work hard.
Yes. Yeah.
And you got to do that.
Yeah. You have to. It's just, you know, it's no work when work's work, and fun when fun's fun, and let it go. And just, but you can't. I have worked for several agencies at this point in my life in marketing. So I kind of fell into marketing accidentally back in my 20s. I was a stylist for a while, just to go back a little bit, bridal stylist, and then started working for a fitness girl who was pretty well known and had her own clothing company. And so she asked me to start running it for her. So I went back to school. That's what I did to go into marketing. And the agency life can wear you down. It really will wear you down, especially when you're client facing, because you give so much of yourself and to your job. And I mean, working 9-10 hour days late at night, developing email campaigns, writing copy, you know, and then you look up 3 years later and you're like, where's my life? It's gone. Like all I'm doing is sitting behind a computer at this point.
Jeez.
And so you have to step away sometimes, even if it sucks, and just move on, because that's not what life's about.
No.
It's not about that. And I'm glad to see you out doing your stuff, because I know you can get sucked in, and I know it follows you everywhere. Yeah. But you know, when I see you out there with your friends, enjoying your wine and your cocktails, and just getting that, you know, little break in that you get, it refreshes you. We've had conversations before where you're like, I needed that. I knew now. Like, The weight of my world sometimes is a little bit much, and I definitely have to step away and get some R&R to balance that out. Yeah. So, you know, my podcast is about interesting people and their challenges, because ultimately what I want people to hear is what I want to ask you next. Okay.
We know what you've been through. We know how you flew out of the ashes like a phoenix and are kicking ass and will continue to. What kind of advice, or what would you tell people that are listening? They're like, my life is a little tough, or I had a tough childhood, or I've got trauma, or I'm dealing with depression or anxiety or whatever that so many people, including myself, have dealt with. If you could sit down with somebody like they were your best friend that was struggling, what would you say to them? How would you inspire them?
Wow, that's a deep and powerful question. I'm into that. It's I would say, honestly, just it's a mixture of things. You know, whether you have faith or something else in your life that you can cling to that can give you that kind of power and that peace. I honestly don't know how people can make it through life without God. Like, just in me, like through COVID, through everything that you face, there's so much fear and hate in this world, and that's all that they want to stir up. Yep. And faith is so much more than that, you know, but I don't judge people for, you know, what they want to believe in or what they not believe in. I know some people, they're like, nope, that can't happen. I totally get you, you know, but you have to find something, whether it's, you know, a person, just listening to podcasts. I listen to, various podcasts just to get that motivation and know you're not alone, and listen to songs, read books. Just take the time that you need to discover yourself, get back to you, work your way through the situation. Fitness, hobbies, 2A, whatever you want. You're not alone. So many people have gone through so much worse than me or you or anybody else in here. Kids fight cancer. There's, families burned in, house fires and all. It's just, there's loss everywhere we go. No one's going to get away from it. No one's going to get away from the trauma. Everything, shit happens to fucking everybody. Excuse my French again. But
it's okay.
It's just, you have to be able to overcome and find that way for you. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So you just really have to take the time, write it down, do whatever you need to, just really have a self-discovery of what means the most to you. And I've done that before. I'm like, okay, what's going to make me happy? Shooting guns, swimming, drawing, just
written these things down.
Written these things down in a notebook. This is how I get back, spending time outside, doing my devotionals. What makes me feel, what are my priorities and what makes me feel like myself? And if I skip some of those or I haven't done them for a while, I feel that, I'm like right now, I haven't gone to the archery range in forever. I need to go back to the archery range, so just whatever it is that makes you, don't hide from it. Don't run from it, accept it, spend time doing that. And, just hold on as long as you can. Don't give up, because it's not going to get necessarily easier. Things will continue to happen. The older you get, the more battles I think you're faced with, it's just, and it's just about enjoying the ride and just trying to be happy through all of the crashes that you face.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. And, it's amazing that I can see you as you saying that. It's amazing that, you've proven that that's the way to do it, because that's what you've done to get through what you've gotten through. I would tend to think that you probably have a very good brain chemical profile with serotonin and dopamine and that sort of thing, because it's hard when you're depressed or wallowing in anxiety or whatever to have that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, what you said is what you hang on to. And sometimes you have to fake it. Sometimes you wake up, you pull the covers back and go, the last thing on earth I want to do is get out of bed. And remember what you just said, because tomorrow's a new day and it will most likely, if not undoubtedly, get better. Mm-hmm. So you just do it. You just put your head down and you do the work.
Yeah. Even if it's the smallest little thing that makes you happy, just a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee brings me so much joy. That's it. Just enjoy those 5 sips, do what you got to do, and just embrace those moments of happy. Don't expect perfection or everything to go easy. Just really discover what makes you happy and hold on to those things.
So you didn't necessarily point that out, but you did. You said, I write them down. Mm-hmm. The fact is you identify, what it comes down to, what you just said. I think there's a lot that goes towards being grateful. Find out what you like and what you're grateful for, because all of the negative emotions, all of the depression, anxiety, jealousy, any of the things that are negative that can tear you down, they can't exist in the same space as gratitude.
That's true.
And if you're being grateful, you're not thinking about feeling sorry for yourself or your shitty child or anything. You're just thinking about what you're grateful and what you love and what you're happy about. Mm-hmm. You went one step further and said, write those down and then go do them. Mm-hmm. So preoccupy yourself with stuff that you like. It's kind of like depressed people don't want to go out and be around crowds.
Yeah.
That's the absolute thing they should do, is go be with people that love them and what they love, so that they can feel good and get the dopamine and the serotonin and little pinpricks when somebody says something that tickles them or makes them think about it. They're happy, something happy in their life.
Yeah. You don't have to dive into a massive concert, go hang out with 1 or 2 people that just bring joy to your life, that, understand you and support you, Yeah.
Well, Beth, I got to tell you, I was a fan before, but I think you're an absolute rock star now. So let's toast again to that with this delicious plans.
Thank you, sir. I appreciated it and wish you all the best. You're fantastic.
Well,
thank you.
That's sweet of you. Our story together is far from over. I'll probably need to have you on in another 6 months or a year to see what other crazy things you've accomplished between now and then, which I'm looking forward to. But I just want to tell you, I respect and admire you because you just don't let anything stand in your way. I respect strength. I admire strength. I probably too much have a hard time with weakness because of the way I was programmed with my parents. So your strength is inspirational to everybody. And I think that people that listen to this are going to feel that way. So I really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. And I respect you too, because you are one that's trying to change this world and make it better, especially with all the chaos. And you are literally changing people's lives, and you've helped people save their lives and others. And just the fact that you're making that your mission says a lot about who you are as well and everything you've overcome.
Thank you. I think that's my tactical games.
I think it is.
That's my therapy.
Yeah.
I want to help protect other people and help them protect themselves and the people they care about. And that focus keeps me balanced. So
fantastic. Yeah. I'll get you to the real tactical games here soon.
I'll think about that. I might be interested in that.
They have little skirmishes too. There's some that's only like a 24-hour jaunt. You could do that. Sure.
I could probably do that at my age.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for being on, sweetheart.
Welcome.
I appreciate you.
Okay. Same.
Until next time, please connect with me on your favorite social media platform where you can follow me on my personal journey, including the fun stuff I do with people close to me to celebrate our lives and our victories.